We're live. Okay, good evening. I'll call the meeting of the Cromwell Board of Education to order at 7:05. Sorry for the delay. We're finishing up our special meeting. First, let me say it is so nice to see everybody. So, welcome back. Okay, call to order. Lisa, when you get back to your chair.
Mr. Petrillo.
Here.
Mrs. Cantwell. Here. Mr. Flanders.
John is on the line.
Mrs. Kelleher. Here. Mrs. Lamberson. Here. Mr. Menendez.
Here.
Mrs. Murley. Here. Mrs. Pope. Yes. Mrs. Russ. Here. Dr. Macri.
Here.
Mrs. Berg. Mr. Butler.
Here.
Ms. Cochola. Here. Mrs. DiFiore. Here. Mrs. DeMaro. Here. Mr. DeTuno. Here. Mr. Kuckel.
Here.
Mrs. Lynch. Here. Mr. Lichwinzik.
Here.
Dr. McLean. Here. Ms. Maher. Here. Mrs. O'Leary. Here. Mrs. Weisel. Here. Hunter Booth. Here. Devin Riggio. Here. Audrey Dana. Austin Gazelle.
Here.
Oh,
Austin is on the line.
Austin's on the line.
Austin Bear.
And I had stepped away from the phone and didn't acknowledge that I'm here, but I am.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Mr. Fortnack.
He cannot join us tonight.
Okay. Mr. Netto or Mr. Ireland.
Julius or John Ireland, are you on the line? Does not appear so. Okay, thank you. Okay, next, approval of agenda additions and deletions. There is one item which we will be adding as a new item, as a new business item, as a letter A under item 11, and that is the culinary arts kitchen renovation at the high school. There'll be a potential action for approval of that project, I should say. So is there a motion to add as a potential action the approval of the culinary arts kitchen renovation at Cromwell High School? Motion by Lori. Is there a second? Second by Jen. Comments or questions? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. Okay, celebrating our faculty staff. Dr. Macri.
Good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to have Mr. Butwell come up in person at the podium tonight so that he can celebrate our staff and our students from Woodside Intermediate School.
Thank you, Dr. Macri. And hello, everyone, and it's great to see you in person. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to invite Mrs. DeTuno up here with me because we're doing a K-5 celebration tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Butwell. I missed that part.
It's okay. And also, I would like to introduce our staff that we're recognizing, Mr. Dan D'Elia, who is the Woodside science teacher and also district science K-5 science facilitator, and Mrs. Terry Farrar, who is the ECS science instructor. So we are here to celebrate them and some amazing work that they did with our students, and those are the students that we're celebrating because they did a great job as well. So before we ended this year, I wanted to make sure that we recognize an amazing project, the Butterfly Project, that happened both at ECS and Woodside in March and April. Dan and Terry did a really tremendous job turning an idea into a huge reality that impacted our entire K-5 community. How did this start? So one day Dan comes in my office and he says, "Chris, I have an idea," and it was about having all students have a chance to watch butterflies watch caterpillars turn into butterflies, study the process, have hands-on experience, and get really excited about it. So I knew this was a great idea because it was inclusive of all of our K-5 students. The whole school community could be involved. It was science-based. It was kid-centered. It was hands-on. And based on the year that we were having, a project like this just seemed really appropriate because it was spring and we were all sort of coming out of our chrysalises. So the timing was perfect. So I'm just going to let Mrs. DeTuno add a few words, and then we're going to let our science instructors walk us through this amazing project.
Thank you, Mr. Butwell. like Mr. Butwell said, this project was amazing, and it brought together the two schools. And it's not often that ECS and Woodside get to do a project that's all the same. So it was excitement, I'm sure, on the buses and with kids at home talking about the butterflies. Mrs. Farrar will tell you at ECS, over a weekend, there was a huge hatch, and so we would hang the nets outside the office, so as the kids were walking inside, arriving in the morning, they got to see them. All the classrooms got the kits, so they all got nets, they all got kits of caterpillars, and they learned in science class the whole process and the life cycle of a butterfly. So a special thank you to Terry and Dan for coordinating this special project for us. Their love for science is truly a reflection of the success of this project. So now I'm going to turn it over to our scientists who are going to present a PowerPoint for you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having us. It's an honor. I just want to start out with thank yous. I want to make sure that I acknowledge everyone that played a role in this. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So first of all, the PTO was tremendous in supporting us. This was an expensive project by my consideration.
That was expensive.
So financing the project was huge. And the ECS WISP PTO was a yes right off the bat. They supported us, which was awesome. I'd like to thank Dr. McLean. Dr. McLean was extremely enthusiastic about this from day one. Anytime I called her and needed something, it was an immediate yes, and believe me, that's wonderful to hear. Mr. Butwell, I asked Mr. Butwell if he could help me find a few dollars to make it work. Automatic yes. Mrs. DeTuno, this was one of my favorite stories. I called her up and I said, "Hi, Lucille, I need," and after I said need, she just said yes. So that's how it was. The Tedeschi family, this is another wonderful story of the community's involvement. The Tedeschi family, Mrs. Tedeschi sent me a letter a few years ago asking me if I would be interested in accepting some funds for a grant, and she put something up on the bulletin board at her work, and we raised $2,500 for Cromwell STEM, and we used a small portion of that to fund this activity. Sam and Silvana are in our front office. An interesting story is we made a beautiful display, and one day Sam was gone, and she went to the dollar store and bought all these little flowers and just helped make the beautiful display that we have out front at Woodside. Katrina and Corey.
Katrina and Corey are front office from the ECS, and of course they always help us try to organize anything we need to get organized.
Mr. Milo in the art department, he had the students paint butterflies. So as part of the STEAM process, the A is art, and Mr. Milo they painted the most beautiful butterflies, and we hung them around the habitats in the front foyer. The cafeteria staff helped us feed the butterflies. We needed a lot of oranges, and we didn't have to say anything more than once. They were ready with the oranges. I'd like to say a special thanks to Beth Horrigan. She spent a lot of evenings and also set up a literacy display at Woodside for the butterflies. The tech team, we had the butterfly cam, went down a few times. They fixed it right away. We learned some nice hard lessons about touching the camera. Once it's up, just leave it alone. And the custodians were phenomenal in making sure that I was informed of any issues around the school, you as well,
Yep.
with the butterflies. We were fully informed. And then the big thanks are, first of all, to the teachers. The teachers were phenomenal. They were wonderful. And I can't tell you how many phone calls I got during the day saying, this is happening, come here, come here. It was just incredible. The enthusiasm was wonderful. Go ahead.
And this is including our teachers who are terrified of bugs. And we do have several who are terrified of even butterflies. So the fact that they were willing to still do this and help us out and participate was huge.
Yeah, exactly. It was awesome. And I have a funny story about terrified teachers in a video that I'm going to show you. And then I really want to thank the kids. They were just, that's what it's all about, right? It's all about the kids. It's all we talked about for a month. Watching them release the butterflies, watching them watch the caterpillars, watching them, the chrysalises shake as a defense mechanism. It was just the kids were the best. And the beauty of it all was that they learned, but they were having fun. And that's something that I think is just magical about this experience. Okay, next slide, please. So they came in huge boxes. They came from California. Terry and I got together one night and unpacked them. That's my lab with 65 or so kits.
Yep.
So we did that the night before.
Each of those containers that you see in the upper right, each classroom got 5 of them, and there were 5 caterpillars in each one, so each class got 25 caterpillars.
And they named every single one.
Yes, they did.
Next slide, please. So they started out as little tiny caterpillars, and they grew, and that took about, what do you think? About
Under 2 weeks.
under
Just
2 weeks, until they started to climb to the top of the container and form the chrysalis, which is the next slide.
And of course, the whole process was somewhat disgusting, so the kids thought it was great.
The chrysalis is formed on the lids of the cups, and then we would take those out, remove the food, and put the chrysalises that were on the cup lids inside the habitat so that they're ready for the metamorphosis and the butterfly's immersion. The next one, please. And then we have our butterflies. And they were beautiful painted lady butterflies. It was magical watching this. And I have probably 100 pictures and several videos, but we just picked a
We're not going to make
few.
you sit through all of them.
And then there's a few of some wonderful students releasing them at the next slide. So it was magical.
I had a couple of students who, some of the butterflies didn't want to come out, so we would put a hand in and encourage them, but a couple of my students, you can see, ended up with the butterflies on their masks, which thankfully they were okay with, because I didn't put them there. That's where they landed when they flew off.
And I'll tell you that just the happiness that was in the buildings. Terry and I would talk about it. Terry and I meet every Wednesday to talk about science and what's happening, and just the happiness in the buildings during this time. It really warmed my heart, and I think it warmed Terry's as well. It was really special. The next slide is a video. I hope it plays, and I'd like to set it up before it plays. So this is a terrified teacher who did not want to touch the chrysalises. The thing I want you to listen to is the kids. The chrysalises shake and they make a noise, but you can't really hear the noise, but you're going to hear it. All of a sudden, you're going to hear the kids' reaction. Is it?
Just gonna get the mic.
So this teacher asked me to help her pull them out. And just listen to the kids, you'll hear it. Sorry.
That's all right.
Pringle? Oh boy, another. Oh, this is going to be a loud one.
Guys, listen.
Listen, you can hear that one. You can see them all shaking. And if I go like this, ready? It'll be like a little microphone. Listen.
What?
Because it's like a little.
It sounds like a chord.
Wait, hold on, listen.
Wow, it's hard.
You could rock to that, couldn't you? That was Mrs. Burton's class, and the kids were whoa, and they would come here, you gotta see it shaking. It was that was a joy.
Is there another video or?
There is one more.
I don't know that the sound is important.
Okay.
Of the release. See if I didn't
Sorry.
tell you. Oh, next one. This was just a release. I think this was at ECS, correct?
Yeah, this is at ECS.
So that's the habitat, and they would just fly away.
My students are still asking about, are the butterflies still here? How are they doing? I'm dancing around the subject a lot. These butterflies don't live very
Yeah,
long,
they don't
so
have
we're
a long.
actually on generation 3
Three or four.
or 4 from this one. So
And I also have students who have since bought habitats. They've insisted on having them at home, so I'm getting full rundowns on that as well. And that's it, everybody. I just, again, thank you everyone who supported us. Thank you to the board for supporting this program. I hope to do more stuff like this in the future. And also, one more thing before, Terry is just such a pleasure to work with, and I want to make sure that she's acknowledged for all that she does. She is tremendous, and it's an honor working with her.
Before you sit down, I just want to say, again, it's great to have everybody back. It just seems like our meetings have missed something without these presentations, so thank you again. Any questions for Mr. DeLeo or Mrs. Farrar? Sure.
Again, thank you to Mr. D'Elia. We will be celebrating in September for Teacher of the Year. And Mrs. Farrar, I think it's important for everyone to know that Mrs. Farrar volunteered so much of her time and still volunteers a lot of her time, although we finally have her on the payroll for a little bit. She is a retired science teacher who just loves science. And
Scientist.
Oh, scientist. Okay, I knew. I've heard so much about everything you do, and has always done it because she loves it. And so she just brings, we are so happy to have her here, and we're so blessed and so lucky. So thank you very much for both of you. When Carrie came to me and said, I need money, I said, oh, God, what do you need money for now? She's like, I need about 3,000 caterpillars. I'm like, for what? And it was just such a great idea, Mr. D'Elia, because and Ms. Farrar, because it really brought unity in our community. And watching them, the tech team, there was the camera on them, so our students who were remote learners, they were able to watch it from home, and then we had it up on our computer so that we could watch it. And it was just really something that everyone needed to be uplifted during a really difficult time. So keep coming up with those great ideas, but just make them a little less expensive, okay, Mr. DeLeo? Thank you both.
Thank you. Okay, so on to correspondence. Do you have anything? I'll do this during public comment.
Public comment?
Yeah.
Okay, then, no, I do not.
Okay. All right. Public comments. Before I read the rules of public comment, is there anybody from the public that would like to comment? Going once, going twice. Okay. I will report that the Board of Ed did receive a letter to be shared during public comment, and I will summarize it. It's from Diamond and Greg Cambereri. So they mentioned that they have 3 kids that were returning to school. They were hesitant to go back full time. They were going to do virtual, but then they decided to go back full time, correct?
Stay.
Virtual. I'm sorry, virtual.
Stay
Sorry. They feared that they would fall behind, not feel included, being on a computer 5 days a week. But from day one, the worries became less and less. Their teachers went above and beyond, making sure they always felt a part of the class, making sure they had the materials they needed for a class. The kids' teachers checked in regularly to see how things were going, if the kids needed anything, if the parents needed anything, and if so, the teachers took care of it. She does not want to forget the specials teachers because they were amazing as well. In summary, it's been a strange and challenging year for the kids and also for the teachers, but the teachers made it a little less strange and a little less challenging. And they would like to thank the board for hiring the best of the best and for doing what we do every day and what we do for our children. Thank you to these teachers and all the teachers in Cromwell who on a good day do phenomenal jobs, but during a pandemic do anything and everything to educate these kids and pivot on a dime. So thank you. So here. Okay, reports from student representatives. Again, welcome back to our high school reps, and we have our middle school reps on the phone. So we'll start with the middle school reps. Austin, Audrey, floor is yours.
Hi, most of this will be about the end of the year, and to begin, the 8th grade students were able to celebrate the end of their middle school careers this week with a fun day that included trivia, an ice cream social, and a movie.
The 8th grade promotion ceremony took place this afternoon. It was a wonderful culmination to the year, and students were able to celebrate all of their accomplishments.
The 8th grade students and staff would like to thank the PTO for decorating the 8th grade hallway, for the and for all of their support throughout the years.
The 8th grade would also like to thank Dairy Queen for donating the ice cream for the ice cream social, and a special shout out to the CMS and CHS custodians for all of their hard work.
Cromwell Middle School staff and students would also like to thank the CMS PTO for our last day of school t-shirts.
We will wear them with pride as we start our summer.
Great, thank you, and congratulations to Austin and Audrey on their promotion to high school. I did attend the promotion ceremony today, and it was very well done. Excellent, excellent. Any questions for our middle school reps? No? Okay, we'll go to the high school. So, Devin Hunter, the floor is yours.
Sarah Dasowski, a senior, has won the Fox Student News Awards for the Chelsea Education category with her story, The College Decision. On May 25, the staff of CHS raised over $120 for charity. Both the National Honor Society and the Student Council won CABE Challenge to Educational Citizenship Awards. Last Wednesday, June 2nd, the seniors walked around all 4 Cromwell schools as students for the last time. On May 28th, the senior class took a field trip to Six Flags New England. On May 26, Canine Officer Bain from the Cromwell Police Department visited the senior class during Flex. The annual Honors Breakfast took place on May 27, and the annual Student of the Month Breakfast took place on May 28. Yesterday, the seniors gathered in the tent to have a yearbook signing party. Unfortunately, the yearbooks did not arrive in time, so they ate ice cream and turned in their Chromebooks instead. Tomorrow, the class of 2021 will have their senior breakfast in the morning. After breakfast, they will rehearse for graduation. They graduate at 6:30 p.m. and they will meet back at the school at 9:30 p.m. to spend their evening at Quasi Amusement Park.
With the spring sports season coming to an end, we had many athletes receive recognition in their sports. For girls tennis, Gabriela Vosio and Amira Abdelghani received second team All Shoreline. For boys tennis, Akash Dave received second team All Conference. For baseball, Tino Gagliardi received first team All Conference and Zach Zajac received second team All Conference. For softball, Lily Kenny, Madison Tesmer, and Jamie Anderson received first team All Conference and All State. Lily Kenny was also named Picture of the Year in the Shoreline Conference, a major achievement. Monica and Erica Dewey were selected to play in the Senior All-Star Game that will be held on June 14th. Madison Tesmer was selected for the Junior All-Star Game that will be held the following day on June 15th. Grace McFarland and Milena Signorello received honorable mentions. At the Shoreline competition for track and field, the boys team placed 3rd overall as a team, and the girls team came in 10th. Ethan Wilson received first team All Conference, and Mark Rodriguez and Zach Randazzo received second team. Connor Daly, Philippe Patina, Jovan Marrero, Mike Zacco, Taylor Santos, Stephen Trin, Jaden Nguyen, Kayla Nappy, and Ethan Philbrick all received honorable mentions for their respective events. For golf, Jack Wise, a sophomore, received first team All Conference. He was also a co-medalist in yesterday's golf match at Stanley Golf Course. Due to his performance, he was also named All-State in golf and has qualified for the State Open golf match to be held on Saturday at Black Hall Golf Course. This is the first time Cromwell has had a medalist in the state golf match. For girls lacrosse, Carly Riley received second team All Conference. And finally, for boys lacrosse, Matt Pepe received second team All Conference.
Finally, I'd like to introduce you all to Ms. Olivia Polkowski, who is going to be joining us next year joining all of you next year on the Board of Ed as a student representative. She's a rising junior, and I am absolutely certain that she's going to do a fabulous job, her and Devin both. I have full confidence in them.
Great. So Hunter is graduating tomorrow, so sadly this is his last Board of Ed meeting. And just want to say thank you for your input over the past 2 years. I know this year wasn't a normal year, so we couldn't have you in person, but we've always valued your input. So I just want to say thank you and welcome to Olivia as well. So Hunter, I believe we have a parting gift.
Yes, welcome to Olivia, and I'm going to miss you, Hunter. Hunter was on my hiring committee, and instantly he became one of the students that I got to know immediately. And we built a great relationship, and I was very sad that we didn't get to see each other as much as we could have during the year. But you can always count on Hunter to bring a rational perspective not only when it comes to talking and discussing and conversing with students, but also when doing that with adults. Hunter is going to McGill. He's going to be amazing. I'm so excited for you, but you better come back and visit because we're going to miss you. But you just, the world is at your feet. You're going to do an amazing job, and I just wish you the very best of everything. And here's your little prize.
And you can take your faceplate as well. So
Yes, you could take the whole thing.
bring it to college. It's very official. So thank you again. Any questions or comments from the board of our student reps? Sure, Catherine, please.
Hunter, I came on partway through when you were the student rep, and I just have to say that you really raised the bar for student reps, and you challenge the board often, and I really appreciate everything you've done, and I know you're going to excel in everything you do in life, and I'm super proud of you. I hope you have a wonderful college experience. Thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. So as the board reps, student reps know, Olivia, you can feel free to stay as long as you'd like, or feel free to leave at any time. So, but you're always welcome. So thank you. Okay, moving on. Reports of liaisons from Town Council and Board of Finance. I know Steve, our Town Council liaison, could not make it today. John Ireland or Julius, are you on the line? Okay, not here. So still no. Okay, so no updates tonight. Next, superintendent's updates and responses to BOE comments / action items from prior meeting. Dr. Macri.
Just quickly, you will see under new business procedures and after-school activities, you had asked me to bring an update, so we have a few people here that will talk to you about that. But I would like to just quickly say thank you and call Dr. McLean up, who has been working tirelessly with our entire administrative team to put together an Summer Learning Institute for our students at the secondary level. As you all know, we had many students who struggled with remote learning, hybrid learning, and just the pandemic, just like the rest of us did. And so our goal, obviously, is to try to catch them up as best we can academically, but there's a huge social emotional component that Dr. McLean and our school administrators have been working so tirelessly on creating for our students. So I just would like her to give you an update.
Dr. McLean, I'm sorry, is your mic on?
Maybe not. First, I want to say it's so nice to be back here.
Yeah,
It's way
talk right
better.
into it. That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
A little bit louder, just a little bit louder.
Really? Okay. So we've been working on the Summer Learning Institute. It really is it's an extension of our credit recovery program at the high school, but we've incorporated our middle school students, so it'll be a 6 through 12 program this summer, with many, many more students that are included. There's also a social emotional learning component to it. We have social workers and social emotional staff that's going to work with our students on executive function and some organizational skills and creating a community for those students, especially in the transition years for kids going from 5th grade to 6th grade and from 8th to 9th grade. We were able to partner with Empower Leadership Sports and Adventure Center in Middletown, I believe. And so they're going to come and they're going to do some leadership workshops with the students, I think twice, and then they're going to be bused over there so that they can spend the day there and get some more leadership training with the staff there. They have a lot of really fun things planned for the kids. There's lots of incentives for them to attend. Currently, we have 87 students that are confirmed, 50 CMS students and 37 CHS students. We're still waiting on 5 middle schoolers and 22 high school students. We have several choice students that'll be participating as well, and they're being transported through generously, CREC is going to be transporting them for us so that they'll be able to attend the program as well. And we're really excited about it. We also hired Adriana Borgia and Laura Morello, who have been absolutely incredibly helpful as coordinators in organizing all of this. So I think it's going to be a really, really great experience for our students and much needed help and support after the year that we've had this year.
And just quickly, because we could not do a district-wide program, it would just be too costly. And but we are there are two different ways to catch students up. You could do extended learning day, you could do summer school, but you have to do them both well. So we decided to do secondary, especially with our students who have been disenfranchised, for the secondary component. And for in the fall, we will have an extended learning day program for our elementary and intermediate schools, which we'll update you on in August.
Yeah, we have some really great things planned for that too. They're still sort of in the works, but so far it looks like it's going to be a really good experience for the kids.
And this is how we are using our American Rescue Funds.
Yep. You guys have questions?
Any questions for Dr. McLean? Catherine, sorry.
We have 22 waiting at the high school level,
Yeah.
waiting for a response, or if they responded, they're not attending, or are we just not sure yet?
They're a maybe. We're waiting on them to confirm whether they're gonna attend or not. There's a lot of vacation schedules, and especially at the high school level, we have very strict attendance rules because they will be getting credit for the course. So, it's a commitment. So we're waiting for them to commit to it.
I'm sorry, I can't hear any of that.
Sorry, Dr. McLean, could you just speak into the mic and repeat the answer?
Sure. We have 22 students that we're waiting on at the high school level to confirm whether they would like to participate in the program. They're waiting for a variety of different reasons. Scheduling, we have, pretty strict attendance policy because they're going to be getting credit. So, making sure that they can actually commit to the program.
John, we're going to have the volume on the mic turned up, or at least try to. So,
I'll wait till they.
okay. Give us a second, John.
Well, I don't know if this one is for
Is that better?
Dr. Macri or Dr.
That is
McLean.
better.
So
Okay.
Yeah.
Both of us could probably answer it since we share a brain.
Yeah.
just in speaking of the program in the fall, I'm just wondering, how do you gauge what the participation levels will be in advance of setting up this whole program? Since it's extended day and they're very, young students, I'm just wondering how long it will be for that you expect, and if you think you'll get a good, turnout from that.
Great, we're already on it, and Dr. McLean will be more than happy to share all of that
We're
information.
thinking that it's going to go until, and we were very cognizant of sports and after-school activities, so we wanted to make sure that parents would still, students and families would still be able to participate in those activities. And so it's going to go till 5 o'clock, and it's going to be, as of right now, 3 days a week. Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, I believe. None of this is set in stone, but this is what is in discussions right now. We believe that we have many students that would be eligible to participate. It's going to be project-based and standards aligned. It won't be skill and drill. They'll be doing hands-on learning with a curriculum that we're looking at that we're actually really excited about. In terms of participation, I think that one of the draws for the extended day was that it could potentially save parents on aftercare. So we're hoping that might attract some students to participate.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'm all set because everything else
Okay.
is, yes, the budget.
Okay, let's see, next, presentations and reports of administration. Item A, the 2020-2021 budget update.
Ms. Burke?
That's reference A in your packet.
It's been so long, I forgot what to do.
Shout into the mic,
I will speak very loudly.
especially with the mask on, too.
So I've included in the packet for you this evening the information that I have that's pretty current. It's as of last week. Changes quick, though. Can I answer any questions for you about the budget that we're wrapping up?
You said it changes quick. Does that mean there have been changes to what's here? Or
Oh, absolutely. As soon as I do it, there's changes.
in what direction?
To the good.
Okay,
Changes to the good. So, as I mentioned in my memo, we had a few nice surprises that really helped us this year. One being the excess cost reimbursement that we get from the state. They gave us, we usually typically get around 70%, and they gave us 80% this year. I don't have an explanation as to why they raised the percentage. I am looking into that. Hopefully, by the next meeting, I'll have an answer for you. But that really did help us quite a bit. And then we had some purchase orders, services changed within special education, so we were able to make some adjustments. So those really helped us get into a better position. So I'm pleased with that. And I really want to say thank you to all the schools and all the departments. As I said in my memo, people just went without this year. They made different choices or just simply made a foregone a decision to, not utilize certain expenses that were budgeted for quite a while ago. So thank you, everyone, for helping us to where we are today.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Burke? Well, thank you. Nobody knew what the next day was going to bring, so to be able to balance that budget is no easy task. So
Thank you.
So we could move on, but again, what Chairman Matrullo just said, it has not been an easy task, and Ms. Burke has done a phenomenal job with the help of everyone to balance this ever-changing budget. So thank you to everyone for your help.
All right, moving on to new business. So item A is the item that we added to this agenda, which was potential action for the approval of the culinary arts kitchen at the high school. So I'll let Dr. Macri explain the details of the project, but just in short, it's a renovation to our existing kitchen that's there. This requires the Board of Finance approval and the Town Council approval. So the Board of Finance has approved it, and the Town Council will be acting on this at its special meeting tomorrow. And the idea is that the Town Council will allocate some funds from the fund balance to this project. So it's not going to be bonded, and it's sort of the town contributing funds from the fund balance. It's not coming out of the Board of Ed budget. So it's on the agenda for us to approve, assuming that the Town Council approves it tomorrow, so that we can start the project. So before we move to a vote, we'll have Dr. Macri give some background on the project.
I will, just in preparation, call Misty Fiore and Mr. Latwinzig up to the podium for your questions, but I'll start with 7 years ago, but the truth is about 6 or 7 years ago, we had a NEASC accreditation. We're coming up on having our next one for the high school, and when we talk about our culinary arts kitchen, it's the kitchen for our students who are participating in culinary arts. So when the school was renovated, the kitchen was not included. It was very costly, to a tune of approximately, at the time, $250,000. We're looking at $270,000, $300,000. We don't know. But the great news is that I did get a call from town manager Anthony Salvatore, and the Board of Finance approved to allocate funds from the budget to town budget to give us to be able to start this project and hopefully finish it so that Devin and Olivia can actually utilize it the next year. So it's really exciting news. It's been in the works for about 6 to 7 years. Misty Fiore is going to retire, but she's going to come back and teach a couple cooking classes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just in celebration.
just to celebrate. it has not been touched since 1981. So we are beyond excited. So if you have any questions.
Well, yeah, I mean, just a couple of facts that if, people say, well, why is this so important? Well, number one is the initial time when we went through NEASC, we were kind of holding our breath because 10 years ago, it'll be 10 years next year, we were nervous because it really wasn't in great condition. They'd mentioned it, they didn't harp on it, but they said you really should be looking at a renovation, and that's when we kind of started the wheels moving. The other piece is number two is I frequent a lot of the shoreline schools because we all meet in each other's school every month, so it's nice. And the programs that the other schools have are the materials that they use and the space and what they are able to use is far exceeds whatever we have. And then number three, most importantly, as most of you know, I've always scheduled the building myself. I've done the master schedule. It is the most requested. Those are the most requested courses. I can never ever fill. We have over 300 requests each time for all those courses from the kids. So half the kids in the building want to take these classes. So it's something that the kids enjoy. They learn a lot. They learn math. They learn reading. They learn everything. And we really do need, I'm not going to sit here and say state-of-the-art facility, but we need something that's practical and being able to be used because it's, I think part of the reason too is it's been overused. We tried a few years ago. We got an actual commercial refrigerator and a commercial dishwasher, which helped. But it's hurting. And so this is great news. It's going to be used. This is not something that's just going to sit there. It is going to be used and used and used again all day long. It is used every period. That room is used every period. So we're excited.
Can you give just sort of an overview of what the project is? Are we replacing stoves, ovens, that kind of stuff?
But yes. Talk to it. Basically, we're renovating it from more of a traditional home economic type environment, home cooking, to a more commercial looking environment. So that way they can use commercial grade equipment, be in a commercial grade environment, and actually have a real culinary arts experience versus a going home, working on a stove in a regular dishwasher and things like that. It's going to be a whole renovation where the entire area is going to look more like a commercial kitchen.
And do we think the project will be done before the next school year, or close?
There are some logistical issues. We're trying to get that worked out. There are some long lead times on the equipment. COVID did not do us any favors. So, and we do have an abatement that has to be done because of the age of the area. It's small, but it's going to impact us slightly. But as soon as we get the funding, we're going to hit the road, hit the ground running, because we're going to get the equipment ordered as soon as we can, because obviously I can't do anything till we have funding, and then the abatement's going to happen as soon as I can this summer, and then it's going to move quickly. It's just that we'll be kind of like spurts because we have to wait for equipment.
Okay. Thank you, Selena.
So will there be an interruption in the program in the meantime?
Yep.
What we're doing right now in order to help with that interruption is Adriano Borgia as well as Laura Morello have been researching, looking at an alternative curriculum that we can do in another room without having to use the materials. Something and not as good as what we would have when we use the room, but they've actually been researching a few curriculums that we're looking into purchasing.
Catherine.
Well, first, they had to adjust their whole curriculum this past year because of COVID, and they did a really good job with it.
Yes, they did.
I was very impressed as having a student in there. But also, are they going to be able to expand the size of the kitchen? I know it's not.
Oh, it's that room is pretty large.
The room is big, but is there a separate classroom from there, or
yes,
will it just be?
There is. Have you ever been down there?
I have.
Okay, so there is a very large room where you have the commercial fridge and the commercial dishwasher and the that silver table, that they
Yeah.
work on, they chop with, and then it's surrounded by very old stoves and ovens. Through a doorway leads to a regular classroom where she preps them there and then brings them into the room. But she has that space.
So the setup will be the same, but the configuration of the kitchen will be completely different.
Yeah, well, yeah, because the cabinets are all going to have to come, it's going to be very different.
Okay.
Yeah. That's part of the reason for the abatement too, because it's behind the cabinets, you know what I mean? And those cabinets are very old.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. Anything further?
No, we're just so excited. Our students are going to be overly excited, and we work with Covenant Living, and a lot of the residents of Covenant Living have written to me and speaking with our students because they mentor our kids and asking, when are we going to do something about this? Our kids really want this, and I think they're just going to be as excited as the rest of us are going to be. So it'll be wonderful. So I'm just very grateful to the town of Cromwell for helping us with this matter.
Yeah, and Lisa, if we could have the minutes reflect, the board is very appreciative of the town's generosity on that. So, okay, hearing none. Is there a motion to approve the culinary arts renovations of the culinary arts kitchen at the Cromwell High School? Motion by Catherine, second by Dipty. Comments or questions? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. Okay, item B, procedures in after-school activities update. Dr. Macri.
Great. I would like to invite Miss Maher, our athletic director, Ms. Jillian Hansen, our nursing supervisor, and Mr. Keenan Love to the podium, our athletic trainer. And they are going to just provide you with an update of to address the public comment that we had last month.
Good evening. I'm here to introduce Keenan. He is our athletic trainer. He's a familiar face among the student athletes. Lately in the fall or the spring since we've just had that, you can usually find him on the golf cart outside going from field to field to field. How this works is that we have a contract with Select Physical Therapy, and we are fortunate enough that Keenan is our assigned trainer, so he is with us all the time. And what happens is he has so many hours. He's at all the varsity games, and then as time fills out, to fill his hours, he does some other events like JV games, freshman games, and so forth. Some of the things you don't see Keenan at that he's actively involved with is behind the scenes where he's impact testing our athletes, looking at their scores. He's talking to the parents. He's talking to the doctors that he's referred student athletes to. And most of this stuff is done during the day where you don't see him. So a lot of this is like behind the scenes that he does that. He's also seen recommending to our student athletes and parents who they should go to next, who to see for an opinion. And we're fortunate enough because he has a lot of contacts throughout the area, and they can get in very quickly instead of waiting several weeks to get in. I'll let him come over and speak for a little bit about exactly his thing.
So just quickly before Keaton,
Sure.
Mr. Love begins,
Yeah.
I just want the board to understand we have a contract, so we have a specific amount of hours which we would love to increase, but we all know that for budgetary reasons, it does make it difficult. But Mr. Love, like Ms. Maher just explained, has primary responsibilities, and as far as being at varsity games. So if there are practices and there are JV games going on at the same time as varsity games, it's his utmost responsibility to be at those varsity games. However, that doesn't mean if there is an emergency or something is happening and he is needed, I'm sure he jumps right on that golf cart and gets to somewhere that he needs to be. However, there are a specific amount of hours, which means we utilize them to that contract.
Yeah. So that's a pretty good summary. I appreciate that. So just some background on me. So this is actually my 13th year as the athletic trainer at Cromwell High. And before that, I was a Cromwell High School graduate, class of 2004. So grew up in Cromwell, born and raised, and I'm still here. So it's pretty great to be here. First Board of Ed meeting. But with that, just I guess when you look at the secondary school system and athletic training, we always look at anywhere. We like ideally to have a contract be from 25 hours to 40 hours. So on the select side, in the state, we have 54 contracts. I oversee 19 of those right now, and we constantly look at kind of how many sports they have, how many high contact sports, what makes sense for contracts and coverage. So when I came on 13 years ago, this was a 15-hour contract, believe it or not. It was basically only varsity game coverage, and that's it. I'd show up, I'd try to kind of let kids kind of build rapport with me, but it was tough. And from there, we took it to 20 to 25, and then I think 6 years ago, we took it to 30, and that's been a good number. We've been able to really manage stuff. We've been able to do majority of game coverage, training room coverage, really build rapport with the kids, and I think more importantly is do all the other stuff. So when we look at what an athletic trainer does at the high school, we always break it into 3 categories. I think we have our general coverage contractually, right? So you look at that and we make sure our 30 hours a week are covered with high contact, high priority down to low contact. And then we have kind of administrative duties. So we have a ton of documentation, and outside of that, we have policy creation. So when we look at policies on the sports med side of things, we have a ton. We have concussion, we have recently COVID, we have cardiac, we have heat. So we have all those here, which is important. And I think the good news, I guess, for me working with Select is we have power in numbers, and we're constantly looking at what's best practice and things like that. So always looking at our emergency action plan. Kelly and I talk every day. We hold 6 parent meetings every year, making sure the parents are educated. That's just something we do. State law now says you need every parent to be educated on, and student athlete to be educated on cardiac conditions and concussion. Full disclosure, I'd say like 50% of schools in the state just make them sign something on Family ID, and they do no formal education. So we've made sure we've done parent night every night, I want to say for, 5 years, a long time. So I get up there, we show a film, I talk about our concussion policy, we talk about our AED stuff, we talk about our emergency action plan and stuff like that. So that's something we do here. And then that third piece, just to give you guys, a lot of people don't know what that third piece is. I call it the direction of care piece. So I probably have 30 doctors like on a cell phone basis in my phone. So I think what we try to do is limit the amount of parents just taking kids to emergency rooms, getting $400 bills, and then calling me the next day and they said follow up with an MD. So what we try to do is figure out pathways, we call it. So do we need to go to an urgent care? Can we set up an ortho appointment or an orthopedist appointment the next day? Can we bypass a doctor and just do physical therapy? So those are kind of the 3 things that we do. And that's kind of, I guess, a little tidbit about my job. Yeah. Any questions? Yeah.
Are you 12 months out of the year?
Good question. Yeah. So the contract is a 10-month contract. Yep. So when we look at it, it actually ends in like 5 days, and then and then we're back first week in August. Yeah. But so that's a tough question. So then we also, in the contract, so we have the performance camp clause. So what I've been doing the last 9 years is I hold performance camps for certain teams, just doing strength and conditioning, injury prevention stuff. So boys soccer is all I have time for now. So we're doing that this summer. We've done that the last 2 years. I've done baseball in the past, lacrosse, boys basketball. Yeah. And always accessible, always helping people whenever they need it. Cool. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
I don't have a lot to add other than we did develop a protocol for the athletics that we have given out to all the coaches. All the coaches have been trained on this year and will be continued to be trained every year. They will sign off on it. And that's really my addition.
Sure. Lindsay.
Can you just clarify, trained on what, like protocols and how to handle certain situations?
Yeah, written.
Okay.
There's now a written protocol.
Okay.
So if Miss Maher, there's always been training, and Miss Maher can talk about the training, but now it's all written, and they have to sign off on it that they've read it and understand it. But Miss Maher can explain what we've done as far as training our coaches.
So in order to be a coach, you do have to have a coach's certificate from the state of Connecticut. So you do have to go through so many clock hours in order to do that and show that you can work with children. You also have to go through concussion training, and there is an update every 3 years for coaches that they must take. The first time that you become a coach, you do have to go through a lengthier concussion mandated program. You do need to get trained on cardiac arrest. Those two things do need to be signed off on yearly. We also have to go through first aid training. That the first time there is a lengthier program. Keenan does actually do an update for us every year for the coaches. So he meets with us, he goes through everything. If there's any new updates on first aid, CPR, AED, the coaches all get that at the same time. They go through it. It's a two-piece for first aid too. There's a written part, and then there's also the practical part where you have to practice. In addition, there's also DCF training, bloodborne pathogen training. There was a lot of COVID training this year. In addition, to keep up your certification, you have to have 45 clock hours every 5 years in order to keep your certificate. So there is an awful lot of training for the coaches and the amount of time that they put in. So any new protocols are added on to what we already currently have in place.
Any other questions? Lori?
Yeah, I just have a question. So you're mostly for the home games, I'm assuming. So when the teams travel, how does that work? Do you travel with them, or do you work with the trainers at the other?
I can answer part of that, and I'll have Keenan answer. We're fortunate enough that within our league, several schools are contracted with Select. So what happens is those trainers talk to each other regularly, and we have procedures in place that if a kid gets injured at another school that is a contract to Select, they talk to Keenan. Keenan knows that night, usually within minutes, if it's one of our kids and it's there. When it comes to state tournament time, depending on what teams are where and whose place, like what teams are left, he also does travel to certain games, depending on the availability, but I'll let him add to that.
Yeah, I think there's always best practice and worst practice. I think I kind of have a like a gauge in my head for severity, and any type of injury that requires any type of referral. I think obviously that parent is going to get a call, but I'll just give either the athletic trainer a heads up, or I'll give the coach, if it's not as smooth of a program, I'll give that coach my number or my business card and say, if you want to have your athletic trainer give me a call, you can, if they have. So it always depends, but we always try to say once there's kind of a little higher severity of injury, there needs to be better communication. Some are great. Some will get a text right away, an email right away. Others are here 4 days later, and we'll see a MD note come through, and you're like, what even happened? And, so, I wish there was an easier answer for that, but I think the best athletic trainers, yes, we're getting constant communication. Others, not so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Catherine?
I have two questions. The first one is, are there like basic first aid kits with every coach?
Yes.
And the second question is, and I don't know if it's you or Kelly, how do we handle nights where, or times where we have football games and soccer games at the same time because they're nowhere near each other in the fields?
Yeah, so yes, we find double coverage, which is ideal. Yeah, so Kelly and I, we already just talked about this 2 weeks ago. So the beauty of having a large company, we have 14 per diem athletic trainers, or we have other people in staff that are off that night. So we're constantly looking at that. Yeah, so anytime we have double varsity coverage, both are covered. I tend to pick high severity. I'll typically be at football, and we'll get soccer coverage. This year, because we're Portland is one of our select contracts as well, and that's the Portland Cromwell football. So we're looking at this year to get their athletic trainer more involved. I actually have to hire that athletic trainer, so we're interviewing now. But the goal is kind of maybe having them be present at every game with me just for increased care, to have two athletic trainers on that sideline.
But you don't always need it if both varsity games are physically at the high school grounds.
Correct.
Like lacrosse and
yeah, which we have
baseball,
often. Yep.
Which was very often.
Yep,
I see you
and we're
zipping
popping back and forth. Yeah, we're just trying to make it all work. There's good communication. We have group texts, and every coach has my cell, and everyone's just constantly trying to, make it work. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you all.
Thank you all
Appreciate
very
the
much.
time.
Thanks.
Okay, item C, district data review, overall reading and math results, reference B.
Okay, again, I'd like to call Dr. McLean up. When I began, we started to show you the data, our benchmark data, and we will show you obviously state standardized testing data as well, but hasn't arrived yet, but our students did participate this year. This is our benchmark data, and we are in the process of changing to a much more efficient data system. Right at the moment, we did a pilot with iReady, which is much more effective and actually matches the standards. And we're going to be moving from STAR. And you'll see the difference in the data. But it's been a COVID year. We have a lot of growth to make. We understand that. We're happy that we are where we are because it could possibly, we thought it could be worse. So Dr. McLean is going to share this data with you, and we're just going to go up from here.
So like Dr. Macri said, currently we're using 2 different assessments in district. We're using STAR data for grades 1 and 2, 3 for reading. No, I'm sorry. 1 and 2, 6 for reading, 7, 8, 9, 10. And in grades 3, 4, 5, and 6, we're using iReady Math. And in 3, 4, and 5, we're using iReady Reading. So it gets a little confusing because we had a pilot going on at Woodside, and they've taken over. They're using that iReady assessment fully now. Next year, we're going to be using the iReady assessment district-wide. I'm really looking forward to that. I know that when I first started here, one of the first things that the teacher said was that the STAR assessment was something that they did not think was accurately measuring the students' progress. And you'll see the disparity in the scores. When we look at data, we talk about triangulating data, which means that we get multiple data points. And when one is an outlier, that tells me that that assessment may not necessarily be as accurate as we would like. And STAR is often the outlier from the other assessments that we give in the district. You'll see in this data some really, really, really great progress. You will also see some places that we need to grow. So we're going to start with reading, I believe. Keep going, Eric. Yep, so this is our STAR reading, and this is overall district. So one of the first things that we look at is the percentage of students. So really in that last column there, we want to get those numbers as close to 80% as we can. So in some places, we have good growth, but still some work to do in terms of getting our students as close to that 80% mark as possible. Overall, there was a 1.4% growth. CMS lost some ground, and we had some growth at CHS as well. You'll notice that WIS is not on here because they use the iReady assessment. You can go to the next slide. And so here we see overall iReady reading proficiency for WIS, and you can see the proficiency level the growth is much, much higher with the iReady assessment. And again, that's because it's much more aligned to our curriculum, and we feel like it's really measuring much more closely the growth of the students. But again, still looking at that last column before the change, you can see those numbers. We still have a little ways to go to get the kids up to an 80% proficiency rate. You can go to the next slide. This is math. Lost some ground in math, although, again, when you see our SAT scores, clearly we're not losing ground in math. So this is one of the places where the data is not necessarily triangulating. You see losses here at the secondary level, but we had an incredible increase in our SAT math scores. So I don't know how much I trust the STAR data in this particular area. You can go to the next one. Math proficiency for iReady, we had incredible gains, particularly in 3rd grade. I'll show you that data later, but the 3rd grade made absolutely incredible gains this year. Definitely something that's notable. Still in that second to last column there, needing to get a little bit closer to that 80%. Grade 6 is what constitutes that CMS overall, because they're the only ones at the middle school level that's using the math iReady. You can go to the next slide. So this is our breakdown of our subgroups. When we look at this, we've got some good data here, and we've got some places that we we need to work on. You can see at the top there's that 1.4% change again. Wherever you see that the number is bigger than that 1.4, that means that we're closing gaps. Wherever you see that the 1.4 is bigger than those numbers, that means that our gaps are widening. So you can see we've got great gains in our L population, and I do believe that that's due to a new curriculum that we've instituted over the last year and a half. Made some great gains in special ed, our multi-ethnic group, and our Latinx group, which has grown exponentially over the last couple years. With our Black subgroup, we're flat. We have some growth to make there, and with our Asian students as well. You can go to the next slide. And this is our iReady reading proficiency district-wide by subgroup. You'll see that overall 18%, and same thing here. Wherever you see the numbers higher than 18.7, we're closing the gap. Wherever you see them lower, the gaps are widening. Really strong growth again with our EL population and our special education students. You can go to the next one. There's such a stark difference between the STAR data and the iReady, as you can obviously see. Not much overall growth, really not even a 1% change. That's why I really don't necessarily think that this is the most accurate data that we have. You can go to the next one. And here's the iReady data. It's so different. Overall, 34% gain. You can see those numbers, especially in the all subgroup, are a lot closer to that 80%. And some really, really solid gains going down in all of the subgroups. All right, next slide. All right, so now we're going to break it down by grades. So again, that overall district, and you can see ECS, and then it breaks it down. Grade 1 made great gains, and grade 2 as well. CMS, overall, grade 6, grade 7, and grade 8. Grade 8 lost some ground. Again, I don't necessarily know how accurate that data is.
So Dr. McLean, can I just ask a question? With each time the word proficiency is used at fall, winter, spring, what is the baseline for determining proficiency? Like in the fall, is that what a sixth grader needs to know at the end of sixth grade, or what a sixth grader should know at the beginning of sixth grade?
Really good question. So it's where the sixth grader should be at that point in the year.
Okay.
So it's measuring. So it's a moving target. In other words, you're moving along. So that same target is not the one in the fall that they're trying to meet in the spring. It's a good question.
And could you just lift the mic up a little bit?
Yep. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
I usually don't have trouble being loud.
Thank you.
Okay, you can go to the next slide. All right, overall district. This is our high school data. Again, that 1.4. You can see where CHS in grade 9 and grade 10. Grade 9 had some gains on the STAR assessment, and grade 10, I always say that 1% plus or minus is flat. There's a standard error there. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. This is our iReady data for reading. 18% overall, that's that data point that you saw before, and this is broken down by grade. You can see that grade 3 made really great gains, and also at 76%, which is what we want to see. That's the number that we really want to see. Go ahead. Math, we lost some ground in math overall, but good gains in grade 2. ECS overall was at 3.2%. You can go to the next slide. And this is 7 and 8 math. Again, 6 is in the iReady worlds in this data. Secondary, you saw that there was some loss of ground in the first slides. This is how it breaks down here. But again, when you look at our SAT scores, there's an obvious difference, and I'll show you that at the end. can go ahead. Lost some ground in grades 9 and 10 in math. You can go to the next slide. Ready? There's some real wins here. Overall district, again, that 37.4. Overall, WIS 42.7% gain. That's a lot of gains in a year. And we're at that 65.7 proficiency rate. CMS, again, 22.2% gains is a lot of gains in a year. But still, I think we have some.
Okay, we have some. Hold up. I'm having a hell of a time following here.
I feel like this thing is right
I'm going to
here.
move the mic closer, John. One second, John, 1 second. 1 second. Getting relocated.
Thank you. Am I the only one whose package materials slides?
Oh, I did switch. I switched the subgroup data to be with the actual assessment data. In the you're talking about in the references.
It's making it almost impossible to follow.
We're on grades 3 through 6. iReady math proficiency.
I understand, but I'm having to go through. They're just not in the same order, so I'm having to go back and forth through these things.
They should be in order now, because we're not using.
Well, no, and they're not. I can't see the screen well enough to be able to read this, so I'm trying to work through the package. What I'm saying is the materials in the package don't seem to be in anything like the order of the slides.
So, Dr. McLean, before you go to the next slide, can you just read off the slide that you're on, and
sure,
so that we all know? So right now we're on grade 3
I can see that part, but let me explain again. I can see the title. The problem is that the slide that you had before this is not the slide that's before grade 3-6 iReady. I'm having to flip through the whole package in order to find where I go.
So, are you on this slide now?
No, I'm having trouble finding it. That's the problem.
So, John, it says grades 3 through 5, iReady.
3 through 6.
I'm sorry, 3 through 6,
I know what
iReady.
I know what it says, but it's not where it should be in the package.
So we agree and we apologize. There obviously something happened. It wasn't deliberate. So in order to remedy the situation for this evening, can we read the top of the slides and then just make sure
This is not a valid menu option.
Yeah. Well, if that's what she's doing, I'm a visual person, so it's difficult for me to
let's just
follow what she's saying.
Okay. So let's give it a second in between slides.
Anyhow, I have that page.
Okay. So you have it in front of you now? Okay. So Dr. McLean, go ahead.
So again, that 37.4 overall math proficiency for the district. It's broken out by school here. 42.7% overall growth for WIS and 22.2% overall growth for CMS. You can go to the next slide. All right, this is grades 3 through 6 iReady math proficiency by subgroup.
So in the packet, that seems to be the
Or
very
by
next
grade,
page.
rather. I'm sorry, by grade.
So that is the very next page in the packet.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this one's in order.
Go ahead, Dr. McLean.
So that number at the top is the same number you've been seeing. Grade 3, that's where we are. We hit that 70% mark there. Again, that's really good number, and a 55.8, almost 56% gain in math proficiency for our third graders. 39% for grade 4, 34% for grade 5, and you'll see that 22.2% number again on this slide.
Mm-hmm. Dr. McLean, can I just ask a question again, going back to this proficiency definition?
Yep.
So for grade 3 at 14.2%, there's such a huge increase over the course of the year. Doesn't that just mean that the material was taught at a different time of the year? I mean, it just seems like a huge...
There's a lot of catch-up that was made.
Yeah.
You can see the kids came in. I mean, they
But
came
is that
in the
because
fall.
they came in to
really
they
low.
came in low?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, 14.2% of our kids were proficient in grade 3 when they came in. And over the course of the year, we've caught them up to now 70% of them are proficient.
So remember also, as we were talking about all the work going on at the same time, we, as you can see, we changed the assessment to a more culturally responsive, more evidence-based, and you do it, that's why you do it with a pilot, so you could see it. Is that variable going to make a difference? Also, what you'll notice is we've been doing the curriculum work,
prioritizing
the standards,
following the state guidance,
right? Working with all the teachers so that they understand what rigorous curriculum design looks like, and then they're taking part in the writing and rewriting of the curriculum, which makes a huge difference in how you perform on a standards-based assessment that's aligned with a standards-based curriculum.
Also, iReady does provide personalized learning for our students, so the students are getting the precise lessons that they need at the time that they need them, and it's giving the teacher constant data as to where that student is and where the next place to go with the student is. So not only does iReady, it's a diagnostic that we're using with the students, but it also has instructional components, which is what the teachers really like about it, that it's not just a number, it's also now what. This is what we can do with the students based on this number. We can group these students together. We can provide them with this standard of instruction. Here are some lessons that we can use. And also here's some practice digitally that they can be working on as well.
So,
Yeah.
Dipti, I'm sorry.
So the STAR was just an assessment. It was
Just an assessment. It's like the NWEA MAP assessment.
Okay.
It's just a diagnostic, right? This has instructional components with it.
Selena.
So consistently, the STAR levels, the proficiency levels, start out higher, and then the iReady start out lower in the fall. I just remember last year, and probably into the beginning of this year, students were struggling with iReady, and we need to adjust the levels.
Right.
So I'm just wondering if it's also that they've learned the program better and have grown in that sense, and that could
So
be considered.
what happened when we first started using iReady back during the pandemic, when we rolled it out and iReady was offering the program for free, we didn't give the diagnostic. So we were giving grade level assessments to all students and then differentiating based on how they were doing with those assessments. Whereas once they get the diagnostic assessment, then it starts to provide the students with the personalized assessment so it knows where the students are. So we had to kind of do a lot of that tweaking, which was hard virtually for teachers to do. And so when they came in the fall, we were able to give them that diagnostic. So that's the difference. Was when we were home, the kids hadn't had the diagnostic. So they were just getting the lessons that the teachers were assigning. This is now giving them lessons that are specific to what their needs are.
And they've continued in class as well to use iReady, correct?
Yes.
Throughout the year?
Yeah. Well, and also there's an instructional component to it as well. So it's not just a digital program.
Where it's STAR, I haven't seen STAR, so what is that like?
It's just an assessment.
Okay.
Yep. It's not great. Yeah, it's not great. Okay, we can go to the next slide. And finally, these are our SAT results. We've got some wins and some work to do. So we lost some ground in language arts, and we made incredible grounds in math. And so that's where, when you saw the STAR data at the secondary level in math, there was decreases, but clearly on the SATs, the students are doing really well. And so that's what I mean when I talk about triangulation. When we look at multiple assessments and how the data is telling us, is the data all telling us the same story? And in this case, it doesn't really match up all that well. Also, another big factor is here that these are not the same students. So that's last year's class and this is this year's class. So you're kind of comparing apples to oranges. Also, there's a lot fewer students in the 2021 class. So that matters for percentages.
What does that percentage represent? Like scores of?
So proficiency.
Scores of what?
Up to 100. Yeah, so it's up to 100%. We would love to be at 100%.
No, are you talking about the cut score?
The raw number.
Oh, the raw number. The
I'd have to look it up for you. There's like a cut score that they say at this point we're going to consider students proficient, and I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. And that's all the data we have. Yeah.
So when you say that you're going to transition out of STAR assessments and into iReady, does that mean you're going to be using iReady for an instructional component from grade 7 on up?
No. So
Okay.
we're going to be using it K through 6 math, K through 5 reading. We are maintaining our middle school and high school curriculums as they are.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item D, reopening plan update, which seems like an ironic title since we're the last day, the day before the last day of school. So
when I look at reopening, I think about it. I think about next year. I just want to fill you in quickly. As I told you in my Friday report, the governor's calls have ended. DPH calls and CSDE calls we've had every Tuesday. We had our last one this morning, and then we'll reconvene in a couple weeks, maybe 3 or 4, she said, because as of today, nothing is changing for the way we operate in schools. Now, we know that isn't going to hold true as I'd like to say as July rolls around, but we all know that we get information last minute and we do what we need to do. Our administrators, our custodial staff, everyone we just figure it out. But as of today, because of it comes down to, and we have no control over this, it's up to families. The higher we get with vaccination rate in the state of Connecticut, with 12 plus, the better chance we will have of coming back without having to wear masks. If that vaccination rate stays where it is right now, which Mrs. Hansen probably knows that vaccination rate a little bit better than I do. I can't keep up with all of it. Then we keep our masks on. That's pretty much what they're saying. We've done a great job in Cromwell. We've stayed strong. I know some people weren't always happy with me, but that's why our kids got to do as much as they got to do, and that's why everyone stayed as healthy as we could towards the end of the year. And that was my goal, was to make sure that this is a pain in the neck. We know it. But I really wanted to make sure that everyone got to participate in as much as they possibly could in the end, and we did a pretty good job. But we don't know what the future holds. So we have to submit a reopening plan with our American Rescue Plan grant. We've submitted, and it's online, it's pretty much what we've been doing, scaled back a little bit. However, as changes come through the governor and executive orders for schools, we will make those changes. But we are being told that a lot of it is going to be predicated on whether or not the vaccination rate goes up. And we don't know where, I don't know, because I didn't think we would be doing 12-year-olds yet. So I never say never, where we'll be with our youngest children. So as far as will we have to quarantine, will we have to wear masks, will we have to socially distance, what will all that look like? There are no answers to any of that as of now, but I will be on all of those meetings with Ms. Hansen. She will be joining me, I'm sure. She has not let me down for 1 second. We are so lucky. It's been a rough year, and thanks to her, we've gotten through it as a team. So I will continue to update you as I learn new things, but as of now, I think we're just trying to land the plane. The state just wants to land the plane and do some research, and then we'll fill everyone in as to what's going to be happening as we learn more.
Catherine.
This entire school year, the schools have been held to a higher standard than the rest of the public.
Yes.
And our students have bared the brunt of it and dealt with it, as well as the teachers and staff. Has there been discussions about potentially changing for vaccinated versus unvaccinated students and staff in the schools where they don't have to wear these? The state has completely changed all of their rules for vaccinated and unvaccinated.
Yes.
And I strongly disagree with making vaccinated individuals in our schools wear masks. And I don't know if there's any discussion of not having it.
This morning, it did
There
happen.
was? Okay.
There was a few superintendents who they're very interesting and very heated discussions, but they're good because that's exactly what we're talking about as superintendents. Why we are held to a different standard, and we're all, we're all on the same page. We wanted our kids to, because of the age and such. We wanted our kids to be able to do as much as they possibly could to have as normal of an end of year as possible. So we wanted to stay strong to those mitigation strategies, but there should be a difference. And legally, what does that look like? If you are vaccinated, do you need to wear your mask? You don't need to be quarantined. What is that going to look like? That was a very heated debate this morning, and I believe it will continue. But it's definitely on the table, and I don't know what the outcome will be, but very strong opinions as to if you make the choice or your family makes the choice or you just can't, whatever it should be, do you need to wear a mask if you are vaccinated? And is it a little bit different for those who have been and haven't been? That has definitely been part of the discussion, but no answers.
Are they what they're telling us to do? I mean, we followed all the guidelines for the safety of all of our students. And we did a really good job of it, but we never asked the question, is it a law? Is it required of us to follow these guidelines, or is it a recommendation that we have to work with our public health director on or a public health coordinator?
So there's a certain level of expectation. So for example, the mask expectation, that is a requirement set by the governor in schools. He has not dropped that executive order yet, that if you're in schools, you're in school-sponsored activities, you must wear a mask. Quarantining, we still have to do the 6 feet radius. That is still what we're being held to. So for example, one of the things that we have done that not all districts have done is our bar. So we finally went to the 5-day quarantine period. That's the lowest that you can possibly do, but we did it when we felt comfortable by looking at the data with Mrs. Hanson, Ms. Grandy, Mr. Neshi. We looked at our data, our community data, we looked at our school data, and then we made decisions on when to lower those. So you couldn't go below that threshold of the 7.5, and that's where we are at this point. There are many schools who, and it has on DPH calls, recommendation, highly not recommended, and Mrs. Hanson is on those calls as well, that we don't take our masks off during recess. However, it's a high recommendation that our students leave their masks on during recess time. We followed that recommendation. Local had the final say on that. So that means Mr. Neshi works with myself, Mrs. Hanson. We have discussions. He says, I'm sticking to the mask because we've been doing pretty good and the kids are doing okay. We're doing the best we can. This is what we're going to do. So local has the final when it's a recommendation of that. However, some districts have chosen to go against a very high recommendation from DPH, which isn't really that smart because we're not the epidemiologists. We don't really know exactly what to do. They're the ones getting all the research, the information and such. So there are some things that some districts have done differently. We've stayed the course and we've been on the same page. And so some stuff is executive order. We can't do anything to change it. And other things, can we play with it a little, like what I just explained? And we did that. was check and balance kind of thing. But the local, in the end, and Mr. Neshi really does have the final say with a lot of things.
I remember at our last meeting, you had said the students are not required to give proof of vaccination. They only if they choose to.
Correct.
So that stays.
That stays
way.
the same.
There's no legal thing that can.
Not yet. So that was a question this morning too. One, is it going to be mandated? And that's a whole legal process that has to go through. As of right now, as it stands, we are not allowed to ask students or staff to tell us if they've been vaccinated. However, if they're about to go into quarantining because they've, whatever it is, whether here or wherever, home, they can show us their vaccination card and they could get out of quarantining as long as they've been vaccinated. If we can't, it's, all right, have you been vaccinated? Yes. Okay, great. Show us your card. Then you don't need to quarantine. Have you been vaccinated? I don't want to tell you. Okay, you need to quarantine. Have you been vaccinated? No. Okay, you need to quarantine. That's pretty much the level of legalities that we have to follow. That still stays true until I think that's going to be a long while, but it's definitely a point of contention as well.
Thank you. Lou.
Dr. McRae, in those conversations, I just alluding to what you were saying about the telling, not telling, was the HIPAA laws come into play there? Was that discussed? And also, when students do come back and if they mandate something with the mask, whether you're vaccinated or not, I would be concerned a little bit as to dividing that up. Because if some parents feel that they don't believe in the vaccine for whatever reason that may be, and the kids come back to school and have to wear a mask and other kids are not, those kids could be made fun of, stigmatized, and that could be an issue.
Absolutely.
So I was wondering, did that come up in the conversation as well?
It did. We talked about what will happen as far as peer pressure, and there are people who have, for health reasons, can't get the vaccine, right? So we don't tell everyone, the student or faculty members, staff members, health records or such. Obviously, if you're wearing a mask, we would think that you are wearing it because you did not get vaccinated. Either you chose not to, or your parents chose not to have you vaccinated, or you have some underlying issue that you can't be vaccinated. So that came up in discussion as well. So I really think it's going to be a hot debate this summer. Just like with this entire thing, there's no one size fits all. There's no perfect answer. As always, we'll make sure we talk to our kids, we talk to our staff, and do the best we can. But that is an issue too. It's definitely real, and that was brought up as well.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Okay. I'm sure we'll be talking about that in future meetings. All right. So item E, next steps building project. So is there a brief update on that?
It's very brief. Right now for the building project, we voted to move forward as far as getting building specs for Cromwell Middle School, and we are about to go out to request for proposal very shortly. I believe Ms. Burke, probably within the next week or two, for an RFP. Okay, so that we can find our construction, group that's going to be working with us, because we need to do that first. Then we need to do an RFP for an architect. So it is a process, but it's moving along as quickly as it possibly could.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Thank you. Item F, class of 2021 post-graduation plans, reference C. Is Mrs. DiFiore going to come up?
Yes, Mrs. DiFiore. For the last time, would you proudly come up and share what schools and what our amazing students are going to be doing in their future?
I believe you guys have a copy in front of you. So every year, what we do is we do a post-graduation plan. We give you, the initial page is the percentages and the number of students. So as you can see, we have 94 of our students going to a four-year college, which represents 69%. We have 21 students going to a two-year college, which represents 15%. So 84% of our students are going to be going to a college. We have 8 students that will be employed, 4 that are going into the military, 3 are going into career education, 3 that are going into the 5th year transition program, 2 are going into an apprentice program. I believe one of them is electrical, and 1 is undecided. Yes.
What is the 5th year transition program?
You want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
The transition program that Ms. DeFiore is speaking about is the 18 to 22 program, the almost newly created Central Connecticut Transition Academy that's in Berlin. Yeah. And just to specify, though, we also have students that were noted in there may also be outplaced that are also attending their facility for 18 to 22, but for the most part, it would be our program in Berlin. Just wanted to specify.
Any other questions?
Just a quick one.
No. Selena, then Lori.
Does this, it looks to me pretty similar to what we usually see. You don't see anything drastically changing because of
No,
the
what I
crisis or
would
anything?
say to you, and I don't know if Hunter would agree, based on his feedback and just listening to other kids, I think this year's class, I think everywhere was challenged in terms of getting into colleges. I think it became a little harder. And I think part of that had to do with the pandemic, because a lot of kids last year took a year off because they knew they weren't going to be able to have the mobility that they would like during college, and after especially parents investing that kind of money. And so what it was is it became extremely, extremely competitive this year, more so than any other year that actually, it reminded me back of like 2008 when like no one was getting into colleges because it was such a bubble of kids. But yeah, it was competitive. It was highly competitive. Colleges that we typically like, a certain kid would get into was not being accepted. And when you'd call, the counselors were calling many of the offices in the colleges, and they were just saying the numbers are outrageous. The number of kids we have, the number of applications we have, far exceed anything we've ever seen before. And it's almost like we lost a year, so I think that's part of it. I'm hoping that'll level off a little, because it was hard. It was a hard thing for our kids. Hunter, would you agree?
I know, at least from my experience, a lot of the schools that I applied to were seeing less spots open and more applications. So I know a lot of my schools that I applied to, the acceptance rates actually got cut mostly in half. So it was difficult.
Thank you. Lori.
This isn't so much a question for Mrs. DeFiore, just a comment maybe to put on an agenda for a future meeting. We had touched briefly at our last meeting about this rating, and I personally don't care for it, and we had a little bit of a conversation amongst the board, so I just...
You will not get an argument with me.
So,
or
I'm
Mr.
being nice,
Kuckel.
saying I don't care for it. I
Yeah,
want to use
I've
something
never
stronger.
cared for it. So.
I think it's terrible, and I don't know what other people think, and I think we need to have a healthy conversation about it and decide how we want to handle it. So I don't know what anybody else thinks, but
many high schools have taken away rank, many, and I think that's the direction I know I'm leaving, but I think if I could say anything, of course I can say anything because I'm leaving. I'm really
And she
dangerous
has.
tonight. I'm really dangerous tonight. No, there's nothing positive that comes
No.
out of these.
No.
Nothing. So, especially when you have a group of kids, for example, you have Cromwell High School kids, you could conceivably, I'll give you an example, have number 22 and number 38 with the almost identical GPA, but maybe they're 2 percentages off, like off of the hundreds place. I mean, that's ridiculous. So I think when you have a group of kids that are just so similar too, it just puts everyone at a disadvantage.
And we're such a small town. You could go through and easily figure out who's who, and I just think it's awful. And I agree with you 100%. So is that something? How do we do that? What would we do?
It would be through the board that
Well,
you'd have
if
to do
the board is telling me to bring this up as the next agenda item, I would be more than ecstatic. Dr. McLean might be jumping out of her seat. And
I
Ms.
would be
DeVere.
thrilled.
She'll be back.
I will come back just to thank you for that because it's just not necessary.
You do understand, and I'm ready for heated conversations, but there is going to be quite a lot of pushback.
Oh, you will get
from community, but that is the right thing to do for kids.
It is the right
We'll still
thing
have
to
our
do.
valedictorian. We'll still have our salutatorians. Our kids will know personally, but their GPAs. I have never walked into classrooms. I've worked in 3 districts where I've heard the question of, is this towards my grade? Is this going to hurt my GPA? It's unnecessary stress that our kids do not need. However, it is something that's going to be contentious. But if you're willing, I'm more than happy to begin that discussion, and we can put it on the agenda for our next meeting.
Can I ask a quick question about that?
Sure.
If we were to do that, what would happen to this list? Because I know it's interesting to see.
Oh, I mean, we could give you the list of colleges.
Yeah,
we could
yeah,
say, like,
you just don't have
colleges
the
are
number.
going.
You just don't have the number.
You just don't have the
column.
number.
Yeah, I mean, we could
associated
give,
with it.
absolutely. And we
Yeah.
actually do that in the program for graduation. We list all the colleges and where everybody's going.
Yeah.
Well, we change that up a lot because what we try to do is excite the kids. So if they got in somewhere, we put it up there, and then when they finally decide, we take all of that down and then start putting up where they decide.
Go for it.
Mr. Matrulla?
Luke.
It just begs the question, why was it there to begin with?
Because the community, that kids were always ranked, years ago. And when we would broach this subject, it wasn't popular in terms of making any changes. So I can assure you that I am for it. I can assure you that Mr. Kuckel, your new Cromwell High principal, is for it. I can assure you that the school counselors are 100% for it. And so, I mean, you will get the schools 100% backing.
And the students? What's your view on the students?
I think so.
Yes.
You back the
I mean, it's pretty clear where I am on this list, especially if you look at my footage.
Just read his shirt.
Luckily, I'm confident to be number 7 in the class, but I could easily see how this could be an uncomfortable situation if I was somewhere where I wasn't happy.
Exactly.
And I know a lot of the students just feel a lot of pressure,
So it's a consensus
GPAs
amongst the
and
students.
the rank. I haven't polled the students, but I would say yeah.
It's
So-
unnecessary. Our kids don't need that. They have enough pressures, and you're awesome wherever you are. And I'm proud to say that out of a class of 357, as crazy as I am, I was number 70, and I'm doing okay in life. So I think we need to get rid of this because we all know, like Mrs. Cantwell said, you know who you're looking at when you're looking at these the students, and this is not how we should be looking at our kids.
So, do you want to take some time and
Sure.
talk about it and consider?
I'll bring it back.
Yeah, and consider the best approach for that.
Yes,
That would be, I would thank you for that because that would be great.
That's your
My
retirement
parting
gift. We're going to talk about it.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yep. Okay. Thank you. All right. Let's see. Item G. Action, approval of minutes and motions from the regular meeting on May 11th, 2021. Reference D, is there a motion to approve? Motion by Lori, second by Catherine. Or was that a question, Catherine?
No, it's a
Okay.
second.
Comments or questions? Hearing none. All in favor? Abstentions? Opposition? Abstentions? I will abstain. I was not at that meeting. Otherwise, the motion carries unanimously. All right, reference H, approval of minutes and motions from the executive session of May 11th, 2021. So just a comment here on the motion. John, are you on as the parliamentarian?
John?
I am.
So I know we don't do motions in
I'm
executive
here.
we don't do motions in executive session, so it should really be the approval of the minutes of the executive session. Do we need a motion to amend the action to take out motions there? Or can we just say motion to approve the minutes of the executive session?
We don't have minutes of an executive session.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
We have minutes of the meeting, and and the minutes of the meeting reflect that we went into executive session.
Yep.
And then the minutes of the meeting reflect the decision that we made afterwards.
Right, I agree. I didn't catch that.
I don't know why.
The answer is because I didn't catch it before it went out.
I don't know why we have to have it at all.
Yeah, I agree. So, do we just take no action on that item?
Sure, why not?
What did he say?
Chairman.
All right, so we'll just take
Tell
no
us
action.
Tell us we're not doing it.
We're not doing it. All right, so that's easy. Item I, action approval of the minutes and motions of the special meeting on May 27th, 2021. Reference F, is there a motion to approve? Motion by Catherine, second by Jen. Comments or questions? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Abstention from Lou. Otherwise, the motion carries unanimously. All right, and then we're not going to take any action on reference on J, the minutes from the executive session, for the same reason as above. All right, item K, action stipend approval for 2021-2022, reference H. Any questions on this?
I do have a question.
Selena, please.
I know in the past, the answer was because there wasn't enough interest, but I see there's freshman basketball, but for the male team, but not for women. And I wondered if that's something we reassess ever. Is Ms. Maher still here?
We just don't have the numbers for that, but we do look at that all the time. And currently there's enough for 3 pro boys teams, and we barely get enough for the 2 girls teams right now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. And how do you find those numbers? You assess the 8th graders?
Sorry, Ms. Mock, could you just come to the mic, please? Thank you. Just turn the mic on.
It's not on.
Last year there was a total of 15 total girls, so there's not enough for 3 teams.
Oh, you need 3 teams.
Yeah, because
Okay.
you would have varsity, JV, and freshmen. So those freshmen would also be playing JV.
Thank you.
With the boys, they have 60, 65 kids trying out. Those numbers support the 3 teams.
Oh, so they just go on the JV team instead of having a freshman team.
Correct.
Gotcha, thank you.
And just my question, these are all contractual sums, right?
Yes.
These are, okay.
Yes, these are all contractual.
Okay. And then just one last question under
I
CHS. Oh, go ahead, John. Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, John. I was just following up on Selena's question. That doesn't mess us up vis-a-vis Title IX, does it?
Ms. Maher, would you mind coming back?
The answer is no, but Ms. Maher could come up and explain. She'll do a better job than me.
The answer is no, just because we don't have the numbers to support that at this time. If we do have the numbers to support it, we would be able to offer that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Some of these have letters next to them, F, D plus, B, C. Do you know what those, there's a column.
Yeah, right there.
Do you know what those letters are?
We've talked about this many a times, but
Looks
I
like a report
forgot.
card.
And I know, it's funny. No, I forget exact. Mrs. DiFiore knows. We want to get rid of that. Miss DeMoro and I would like to get rid of it, but it does have a meaning.
So many years ago, to determine the amount of the stipend, they determined the amount of hours that were devoted to that particular activity and club. So what they did is once they figured out the amount of hours and time and how it ran through the year, like it might have not run through the whole year, they would give it designated a letter. So something like, I don't have it in front of me, but like student council or connections or where am I here? Yeah, so as you can see, like C, although that's not right, I don't believe. The higher the
Fran, you could look at under, I think this is what you're looking for, Law Schools Production, CHS, F.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
F. Like the farther into the alphabet, the more involved it is. Does that make sense? Yeah. And there's a rating scale that was made with the unions, with the teachers union and the administration at the time. And so they designated like, this means it's, 10 hours a month, or this means it's so many hours, per month or per they split it up. So that's how they were able to determine whether, like, what you got paid. So like jazz ensemble, he meets every week all year long. I think twice a week. Let's see. Connections is something that is, a person is doing lesson planning for the entire building for a lesson every week. That happens every week.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
And Mr. Morrow's, do you want to come up, Mr. Morrow?
I probably didn't
Ms.
do such a good job. Michelle can do a much better job.
It's basically, we grade everything around here. We're educators. But the truth is, if you make more money if what you're doing requires more of your time and more commitment. And it's in the, I know Mrs. Morrow's going to tell you where it is in the contract.
Yes, it's listed at the end of the stipends in the contract, so it is contractual. And if you look at the teacher's contract and you go to the end, and teacher's contract is located on our website under Board of Ed, go to the bottom and click on bargaining unit contracts. But it'll specify what each letter means right on there. So, again, as Fran stated, it is contractual, so next to each stipend, if there's a letter, we put the letter on there.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so hearing none, is there a motion to approve the stipend listing attached as reference H? Motion by Lou, is there a second? Second by Dipty, comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. Okay, item L, action. Out-of-state field trips, 2021-2022, reference I. Are there any questions about this? I guess this is all contingent upon health health status next year.
Yes.
So, subject to change. Okay. All right. Any questions? Okay. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the out-of-state and overnight field trips attached as reference I? Motion by Selena. Is there a second? Second by Catherine. Comments or questions? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. Okay, we're item M. You have the principal reports attached as references J, K, L, or M. Any questions? Okay, hearing none. Item N, human resources personnel activity, reference N. Dr. Macri.
I'm sorry, we had just a slight error. If you look at the new hires, the very first one, Joseph Asmus, he has been hired as a physical education and health teacher for Cromwell High School, not middle. We will make those changes in the minutes. I just want to make sure that you know where he will be teaching.
Okay, Any questions? Okay, hearing none. Moving on to item 12, board committee reports. Nothing from the policy committee. The facilities committee met on May 11th. Their minutes are attached as reference O. Any questions or any comments from the facilities committee? No? Okay. Topics for future agendas. July, there's nothing there. Is that the training day?
Yes,
Okay.
that's July, I believe it's 13th.
Okay, so
and it's
just as
training.
as a note to the board, we didn't do any board training last year because of COVID, and we tried to do one during the summertime. So we're going to try to use our July meeting as an opportunity to have just a standard board training seminar. So please do try to make that that meeting. So any questions? Okay.
I'm sorry, can I quickly,
Maybe
I'm sorry, we have
for-
one retirement I didn't acknowledge. I'm
um,
sorry.
Can we go back? I think John
Sure,
had-
yeah, no, that's
Sorry,
fine.
John, did you have a comment?
I said, I think I'm quarantined that day.
Ah.
Don't worry, we're
As-
gonna we'll have you join virtually.
As luck would have it, John.
You're the professional at virtual.
We haven't told you. You're going to do the training, actually. So. Thanks, John. Okay.
Oh, in that case, absolutely. It's going to be a long meeting.
Dr. Macri had one other retirement. to
I'm
mention,
sorry,
so
yes,
just to
I
go
did
back.
not acknowledge the retirement of Miss Camille Demitrizin, and she is our CAF manager at Cromwell Middle School. And she has been employed with us since 2010, and she will be retiring to spend more time with her family. We wish her the best.
All right. Comments, updates, and announcements from board members and administrators. Oh, I don't. I'm sorry. For the what? Sorry.
You're adding it to the August and class rank discussion?
I think we're gonna wait and do you want to? Would you want to consider it first, and then we can add it on the July meeting? It's up to you.
Well, so that training is probably going to take the whole time.
Yeah.
So could we do it in August? Is
Well, I'm
that-
saying, do you want to consider? If you want to add it now, that's fine. I just thought you wanted to consider the process, but we can add it now. That's fine. All right. So, is there a motion to add discussion of class rank to the August 10th meeting? Motion by Dipti. Is there a second? Second by Jen. Comments or questions? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Okay, moving on. Comments, updates, and announcements from board members and administrators. Any administrator would like to comment? No? Okay, we'll start with our board members. Well, actually, we'll start with our student reps since you made it all the way through the meeting. So, Olivia, anything to add? No pressure, no pressure. Devin? Hunter? Lou? Lindsay? Okay, Dr. Macri?
I just want, of course I do. Why wouldn't I? I just want to say thank you to everyone, to our Board of Education members, to all of our staff. Every single one of you has been amazing. I am so blessed to work with an administrative team that is here tonight. Teachers, support staff, office staff, custodial staff, paraprofessionals. Everyone has just really done a tremendous job this year. It has been a rough year, but we did it. We made it. And it's on behalf of those three and the other 1,997 kids that they represent. We put our heads together and we made it work. And I want you to know that it's really because of all of you that all these people are here and really care. So I can't thank everyone, the gratitude that I feel that we were able to make it through this school year as successfully as we did. I just want to say thank you to everyone and wish all of you, everyone, a wonderful summer. And hopefully we'll all get a little bit of relaxation time.
Hear, hear. I have a few items first. As Dr. Macri alluded to earlier, this is Mrs. DiFiori's last board meeting, so just want to say congratulations on your retirement and thank you for your service. Certainly bittersweet. To the seniors graduating tomorrow, congratulations. And also, as Dr. Macri said, thank you to everybody for all of your efforts. Truly a team effort, including the students. They showed up and, rolled with the punches and never said a word. So
They were great.
So thank you. Thank you to the board. I know we've had a lot of special meetings lately, so thank you for your cooperation and dedication. We do have a special meeting on the 15th, so next Tuesday as well. So you'll be on the lookout for the agenda for that as well. And that's all. So. Dipty? All right, John, over to you. Anything?
So moved.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn by John? Is there a second? Second by Selena. Any comments or questions? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. We are adjourned at 9:04 p.m.